I'm Jim Alder of the Pink Toad Properties in Keller Williams, and I'm at 20 Dwight Street. It's Dwight Street, right?
Dwight, right.
Dwight. 20 Dwight Street in Halifax, down by Twin Lakes. And the reason I'm here is behind me is half a monument, which may look familiar. This is actually the bottom half of the Myles Standish, the original Myles Standish monument. It was on Captain's Hill in Duxbury. And I'm going to talk with Mark Valentine, who happens to be creeping up on my left shoulder here. And he is the superintendent of this memorial. And he's going to talk about these legs, how they got here, where they came from, where they've been, and what's going to be going forward with this display. Let's get to Mark. All right, now this fellow right here is Mark Valentine, the superintendent I mentioned earlier. Mark, thanks for having me down here and talking about Myles Standish.
Well, thanks for coming by.
My pleasure. So, give us the executive summary. What's the story with these legs? How'd they get here? All things Myles Standish. He's, I guess people say that he's the most famous resident of Duxbury. I don't know. I thought it would be a toss-up between him and John and Priscilla Alden, but be that as it may, we have these monumental legs. So tell us, Mark, what's the story with these?
Well, Myles Standish was the first Englishman to come to Halifax and have a powwow official meeting with Massasoit, the great chief who had his hunting lodge here in the lake. Now, the legs themselves, the monument in Duxbury was conceived by the committee down there, the Royal Society and all, in 1872. And it was the same year they got the President of the United States, Ulysses S. Grant, to be the honorary chairman of the committee to build the monument to the first military leader of the Plymouth Colony. So the committee, they were on the ball enough and interested enough to get the President of the United States, which happened to be Ulysses S. Grant, to be the honorary chairman of the committee to build the monument. 1872 was the same year that the president put aside Bedloe Island in New York for the Statue of Liberty, so he was definitely in the mood. Well, we now switch to the 50th anniversary of the dedication of the monument, 1922. Around 2:10 in the afternoon, one solid lightning bolt came down on a crystal clear day and struck the monument. And of course, as they say, one solid bolt of lightning is 5 times hotter than the sun. The the Wampanoags and all, consider it very important because it disarmed him, took his sword, took the charter, and took his head. And the idea was, if you look at the monument on the side of it, this side where the sword, they consider it very powerful because it took the hand upon the sword. Now, when the lightning bolt struck, it took big chunks. That's the only strike on the monument where his hand would be on the sword, that it's the hand on the sword that did the damage or killed nothing. But the idea was, you can see where it's still charred black on this side, and it took the charter on the other side of the monument where the lightning also bounced off as the charter.
Okay, Mark. So you were talking about the char up there on the left and the right side of the monument. What again was that from the lightning bolt?
Well, the lightning bolt hitting roughly at 2:10 in the afternoon on a crystal clear day. That's why some say it was heat lightning. But to the Wampanoags, they consider it very powerful, that it took his sword, but they interpreted that it took the hand upon the sword. And also on the other side, where there are actually char marks, burn marks, took the charter, which is the way they interpret it, is that the oldest artifact they found on this property right here is 6,000 years old, which we've had verified. So they've always been here. So for them to have a charter saying these are the new rules and regulations of the colony or whatever, when the inhabitants already had for thousands of years their rules and regulations, so to speak.
Okay. Now this land, we were talking before, Myles Standish owned a property in Halifax, is that true?
Yes, a lot always said, well, it was some insignificant farmland in Halifax. No, it was the land where our current elementary school is, because he had originally picked that because it is the highest point in the Plymouth County for a fort. Because our nearest fort to Halifax is Middleborough, which is 8 miles away.
Okay. All right. Now, these legs, this bottom half of the monument, how did it wind up here? Where? So the monument was struck by lightning. The original monument was struck by lightning.
Right.
Top half was pulverized.
Right.
They took down the bottom. And when was that?
It was 1922 was the destruction of the monument by the lightning bolt.
Okay.
The only part of the original that survived were these legs.
Okay.
So they tried to fix them.
Yep.
So for 4 years, it took to build the upper half from his waist up with the pilgrim hat and his arms, one hand on the sword, the other on the charter. After 4 years of work and fundraising and trying to get this going, they brought it down to put on the original legs, the top half to put on the original legs.
These legs.
These legs right here. And they found a crack. There's a crack that goes around his whole front right leg, from the front all the way around the back.
Right.
And they determined that these original legs wouldn't hold the new upper body.
Right.
So they took these legs and threw them in the quarry in Quincy.
Now, you said, sorry to interrupt, but you said that crack was right there around that V, right in the right leg?
Well, would you want me to, can I go up and point it out?
You can if you want.
Okay. The crack is right here. If you come this side a little, is right here.
Yeah.
And that goes around his whole leg.
All right.
So they said that won't, the original legs, the only part of the original left, wouldn't hold the new upper body.
Okay. And what?
So then after that, from that day on, it took another 4 years to make a new set of legs to go with the top they had
Already
finished.
made.
So that was 1930 when it was finally completed and put back up on top of the monument in Duxbury.
So they decided they needed a bottom half. Took a while to have the quarry, the stonemasons, make a new set of legs. That was that from Maine, Vermont? Where was that?
No, no, it was from Rockport originally.
They made them in Rockport.
The original.
The originals.
And what they did was it was rediscovered. We found the legs in the early 90s in Quincy.
Quincy.
And that's when we were there doing
Quincy Center, where
Quincy, the Montes at the quarries.
The quarries.
At the quarries.
Okay.
And the idea is Linda Monte, who was the owner of the quarries there at the time, said, "Well, I'm quite historic myself. I've got Myles Standish laying over in the woods."
I thought they might have found them on the bottom shelf of the Quincy Bargain Center.
No, no.
The quarries.
Well, he was laying down in a bunch of brush. You know, he had to look sideways. And you go, "What is this?" And no, she said it's Myles Standish. Then they come to find out we have a lot of Myles Standish descendants right here in town, including our barber, John the Barber.
So, okay, so she found the legs. And she obviously knew they were there,
right?
Prior to you.
Well, the idea was the only other part we had there, because we traced down every rumor.
Right.
They said that the head, the little girl that's in the picture in 1922 when it was destroyed, is sitting on the visor of his pilgrim hat. Well, that family, their place was down there in Duxbury, but their winter home was in Ipswich. So we took almost 10 years scouring Marblehead, Ipswich, figuring that the head was in someone's garden.
Right.
But the other word from an original at the quarry said no, that the head had also been vandalized and was discarded.
Yeah. Okay. So some good citizens got together and they said, we're going to take those legs out of the quarry, and
we called it the Save the Legs Committee because they were going to cut them up.
Okay.
And we went to our local coffee shop and got a rally going.
Yeah.
And we secured the legs with a state police escort here to Halifax because it was the first time in 90 years that Myles Standish was back in the county.
Right. Those are good-looking legs. He's got nice-looking calves underneath those boots or whatever they call them.
Right.
Okay. So you saved the legs committee, and were they immediately brought here? Where were they taken?
Yes, they were originally brought here, and put up on our property on 58. So a lot of people still today go, oh, I remember didn't they used to be up by 58? Well, our property borders 58. We moved them here when we sold the property,
Right.
and we're an old barrel company, and we said, well, we're perfect, the original railroad tracks from the barrel company, and he's been here ever since.
Oh, is that what these are? A small spur line?
Right. And
Okay.
we'd back the big trucks in here, and they would come down here and load on the side of the truck. And so we've had them about 25 years, and it's we've decided to expand as a birthday salute the exhibit. And the exhibit is not to put Myles back together, when in no way, because we send once they come here, now we get roughly anywhere from 30 to 50 visitors a weekend. We steer them to, now make sure you go down to Duxbury and check out the monument, which is a majestic monument down there.
Let me stop you there for a minute. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a real estate friend, and I don't know how we get on the topic, but she started saying how she was a Mayflower descendant, I think, of Miles Standish. And I said, well, I'm a Mayflower descendant of John Priscilla Alden. She goes, oh. I said, well, have you been up to the Miles Standish Monument at Captain's Hill at Duxbury? She goes, I never heard of the thing. I said, it's down off of Standish, down there up the Captain's Hill. Go up there, it's open, maybe on a weekend, or definitely after July 4th, Independence Day. Yeah, you go up there, walk up there, drive up there, and he's up on the top of a 150-foot, how tall is that monument?
I think 120, I believe.
120-foot tall. And, yeah, he goes, I'm going to have to do that. So there you go.
Well, we're amazed how many people, it's like live around Plymouth and never seen the Rock or something like that. And,
yeah, really.
But we steer everybody, and my whole program here is to spark renewed appreciation, especially to the kids that have no idea of local history and what happened here, and because we have the oldest map the state has of the lakes, which actually shows Massasoit's hunting lodge where it was, and of course he always came through here to sign all the treaties over there in East Bridgewater.
Right.
So it's a case of really, having them appreciate local history and get into it. And the idea is, a lot of my exhibits have always had kind of like a slice somewhere of Monty Python. If the head is what takes, or the legs, which they do, bring everyone in to see it, that hooks them, and they want to know more. And we feel we're doing okay, sparking their interest in history.
Right. We were talking the other day, and you mentioned something about King Philip, he was the son of Massasoit?
Right. Massasoit had two sons.
Okay.
The English call them Philip and Alexander. Alexander was Wamsutta, which the state boat landing down here is named after, and Philip was the youngest son. Now, when the Pilgrims landed in 1620, Wamsutta, the oldest son, was 12 years old. So, in other words, he grew up in a political family. So by the time he became chief at 40, he knew all about the Pilgrims and suddenly all these other influences were coming into the territory, arriving in the Quincy area and coming down and kind of disregarding all the treaties and the rules and regulations that Myles Standish had set. Because don't forget, we represent the first 15, 20 years of Myles Standish before it became political with the other colonies and all that.
Right. And Myles Standish, a lot of people, they don't like Myles Standish because he was a mercenary.
Right.
He was a hired gun to come over here and protect the 100 Pilgrims, or separatists, when they landed, came over here. They were actually supposed to go into Virginia, I believe, right? But they wound up here. So that was his job, keeping everybody safe.
Well, I went to the first memorial, which is in Leiden, Holland. I was over there for school. And in the Leiden Cathedral, they have a granite wall carved the Mayflower, because that's where he first met the Pilgrims, in Leiden, Holland. And then he retired that year. They went back to England and decided to sign. But he had his hands full, because don't forget, to arrive in Plymouth the 19th of November, and we all know how cold Plymouth can be on a cold day, and to realize that they're looking into like the dark continent, realizing in the spring he'll be going ashore there could be 1,000, 2,000 Indians and or inhabitants. He didn't know what to expect. He had his hands full, besides his wife dying on board the ship that first winter.
Right. So what's the next step with this monument? What's going on now, and what's going to be happening in this?
Well, we've commissioned with the Historical Society here in town a new head, just his head from the neck up, which will be placed at his feet. We're not trying to put him back together in any way. The exhibit, which is a permanent exhibit, will be the head next to his feet, where they found the original head after the violent lightning bolt destroyed the monument.
Okay.
And we've commissioned a very well-known, very famous sculptor in Barrie, Vermont, at the Barrie Sculpture Studios. His name is Jerry Williams. And matter of fact, he has two of his bronze figures, Alexander Hamilton and Ben Franklin, full size, in the White House in Washington. So we've commissioned him. It's going to be an incredible work of art. We expect it by the end of July, and probably the dedication will be in August, which August 26th is the day it was destroyed. And we're trying to raise the rest of the money. It's $55,000 for just this head.
It's going to cost $55,000 to
$55,000
carve the new head?
To carve the new head.
How tall is it going to be?
It's going to be 4 feet high, including the pilgrim hat.
Oh, it's going to be, that's big.
And
okay.
Oh yeah, and it's life size. And we've already raised half the money.
Yeah.
So we're encouraging people, because this is one exhibit. It's not so much getting your name on a plaque. It's being part of a really neat project, a permanent project. A lot of the stuff for the country's birthday is going to come and go. This is going to be here. And we're encouraging everyone and families to be a part.
Right. Yeah. You know what happened with Plymouth 400 with COVID?
Right.
All that planning, everything went out the window.
Right.
So, okay. This thing. Oh, what's the story with this Lindenberg? What's this?
Well, Lindbergh was the first town that he flew over that everyone saw him. I have the front page of the Enterprise.
Halifax was?
Halifax was. And it says right on the front page, and I'll give you a copy to take with you, is that he was only 100 feet. He almost hit the top of the Congregational Church, which is 88 feet. And
Really?
He flew right down this street. He was reading railroad maps. One of the points he had to hit was the crossing of State Highway 58 and the Old Colony Railroad to Plymouth. And what was the neat thing about it, he sent Halifax a telegram from the Ritz in Paris, thanking us all for coming out and going, hey, as he flew over. And every year we have a special, on the date, May 20th, Lindbergh, we have a flyover from the local airport. We have about 10 to 12
at
trains
Cranland?
At Cranland Airport. And so that's just kind of a neat thing that he flew over.
Yeah.
And don't forget, the other thing with the monument is that the reason why the first 10 years we had him, to be perfectly honest, became almost like a revenge thing, that the inhabitants and the Wampanoags loved it, because after 90 years, the captain is back in the county in half. Well, see, over the last 10 years, the night after Thanksgiving, it's turned into a healing ceremony. We have a Wampanoag holy woman comes and says the Our Father. You saw from the picture, we light a big torch, and it's become very, very special. But if you look at this side of the monument, that's what those round circles are, is when the lightning bolt actually burnt the granite. And that's from bouncing off his arm holding the charter.
So, the money you need to raise to have the head carved, where are you in that?
Well, we've raised over half. We have to raise 20 grand more, and we'll be all set. And because once everyone hears about it and wants to be a part of it,
right? Because,
see, this exhibit is Myles Standish up close and personal. To go down to Duxbury, which is spectacular to see him up there, but he's 120 feet or so in the air. Right. You don't get to look him in the face. Here, that's why we're calling the exhibit Myles Standish up close and personal.
Right.
Because you can get within 10 feet. And the two things, the quote in the Globe when the lightning struck was, "A lightning bolt heard round the county." That's the quote from the Globe. And some of their comments were that the real artistry of the monument are the folds in the pants and the folds in the cape on his back there.
Yeah, it's a rough. It's rough. It's a rough monument if you compare to say, oh, this is granite.
Well, don't forget the new head will be
Yeah.
smoother, of course.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is compared to the marbles you might see in Florence or Rome, or
Right,
those are
right,
totally different,
right.
totally different things. Yeah.
But you can see those burn spots because, as I said, a solid lightning bolt is 5 times hotter than the sun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, keep me updated on the fundraising stuff. We'll be in touch.
Well, as I said, maybe you have some ideas on how people can donate.
Well, you get that Venmo thing set up like we discussed earlier.
It's called Venmo.
Venmo, Venmo. You set up an account in a bank.
Right.
You can do Zelle, which is a thing that banks do,
Right.
so people can get it online.
Right.
You know,
Well, I want to write that all down.
the kids.
Do you have a minute to come in and see the priceless chest we have?
Yeah, I'll take a stop in, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mark Valentine, thank you very much for coming
Well,
down.
thank you. Thank you.
We talked for a long time yesterday, and I learned a little bit more today.
Well, that's what our program's about, a lot of the lost history or another view, maybe connecting the dots for some people.
Yep.
And because, as I said, who knew he owned property in town? Who knew that Wamsutta was 12 years old when he arrived?
Right.
You know, this type of thing.
All right, Mark, talk to you in a bit.
Great. Thank you.